Welcome back to the eSports Arena design series I am doing on my channel. Today, we're going to be talking about video number 4 of the series, where I talk about how we are starting to think about how we diverge from the sports stadium archetype into the arena eSports archetype. If you have not seen any of my other videos of this series, the other 3 videos, I highly encourage you to go and watch them, but you do not have to watch them to get something out of this one. On the first video, we look at the introduction of esports in general, just like a one-on-one. Part number 2, it's kind of the anatomy and the range of all the type of spaces of esports. And part number 3 is all the design challenges that I could identify that are getting in the way of this esports arena archetype spaces being developed to really catch up to all the hype and all the development that is happening in the esports world. In today's video, in part number 4 of this series, we're going to explore the overlaps and tension points between the sports and esports stadium arena archetypes so we can better understand the unique challenges that need to be resolved for the esports arena, but also the unique creative opportunities that could set the esports arena solidly apart from its predecessor, the sports stadium. We will be using the sports stadium as our reference point because it is the building archetype that is most closely doing what we want to recreate in the esports world. That is, the gathering of a large number of people in a single space to spectate a single event. From here, our goal will be to intelligently and creatively explore how to diverge from the known stadium archetype into our own archetype for the esports building. The idea behind today's video is to go a step further into the world of this whole analysis and design of the esports arena, in particular the tension and the overlaps between the stadium and the future of esports. I'm going to give you almost as a grocery list of things that I have identified, and I'm going to comment a few things for each one, but we just don't have the time in this video to go deep into each one. Who knows, maybe I can start doing specific videos, and like deep dives into each one in the future. But for now, I just want to give you a closer, but still in the realm of overview and into this landscape that I'm taking a step into. So let's get to it. Overlap areas. I have identified 5 points where the archetype of the sports stadium overlaps with the arena, the esports arena. First one is that both are a public space that you have to travel to. This means that there is a friction point. That's kind of like the takeaway from this. There is a friction point from having an environment that is tailored made and specialized to my own liking. Now I have to go get in a car, buy a ticket, travel to a certain geographical point, get in a building, get in a queue, find my seat. All of these little friction points that get in the way of my comfort, and I am getting further away from a highly specialized, tailored to me experience to a more generic but communal experience. And that is a pro and a con. Either way, both types of buildings or spaces are going to have to battle with this or navigate it. The second point, we have that both spaces are going to be entertainment-based program. It's not a necessity. So the barrier for people to not just consume, go out of their way, pay for tickets, go and do the travel time, go through all these friction barriers, it's going to be a higher barrier because it's not something that you need. And as I mentioned, I could have an esports experience, a highly tailored, very good esports experience from my own space. So what needs to be created for both needs to be good enough that we are willing to forego the highly specialized environment for the communal experience. Number 3, large number of people are gathered or need to be managed. Now, this is from a building design standpoint. You have a lot of circulation, like people moving around, queues forming, egress, exits to manage. You also have just the overall experience of like the influx of people coming in, having to have all these hallways and stairways and just circulatory elements that make it appropriate, that make it comfortable, but also make it a huge and cool experience to actually traverse the building as I'm making my way to the seat. There's also the seating arrangement and the visual lines that need to be maintained. So the way that the actual arena or the seating layout is staged, so everybody is able to look at whatever the event is happening. And that for architectural designs, that is a very, very big constraint and a very key point in stadium and large event venues design. Number 4, we have the Spectator Experience. Both the sports stadium and the eSports arena are really tailored for a spectating experience. This changes a bit with the eSports arena, and we'll talk about it further along the video. But what the space is being designed for is to spectate. And number 5 in our overlap list is that both of these buildings, both of these spaces are urban/cultural symbols and economic drivers for wherever they are. Just think about it. Any sports stadium, really any big venue, anything that really affords a large gathering of people to watch some type of event is always a milestone. It's a key building to be built in any city, any county, any state. You know, you have all of these brands and companies that are fighting to just put their names and slap their brand on these very big stadiums. And it's always a point of pride and a very, very big economical driver for these buildings to be in any particular city. And they're usually always placed they always define a district onto themselves, the entertainment districts, the sports districts, and so on. So both of them, the esports and the sports buildings, end up being economical drivers and symbols of culture. And those are the 5 major points I found that these two archetypes have in common. Like they have these areas that they overlap. Now, this doesn't mean that this is a comprehensive or an exhaustive list. These are the major points that I found. There are some minor points. But hey, if you find anything that I missed that is glaringly obvious, please comment down below. Now for the tension points. This is this list is what's going to create the real opportunities for innovation, because this is where it becomes different. It's trying to be its own thing. It's trying to be specialized to its own thing, that it's not sports. That's just not copying whatever everybody else has been doing for any other activities. So we'll get to this list. And this list has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, 10. There are more differences than there are similarities between these two archetypes. And this is something that I want to drive home. They are different. So let's quickly start, because it's 10. This video is probably too long by now. Number 1, big physical field versus a small physical arena. So you have the big physical field that is needed to actually afford the physical sports dynamics, having all those, the amount of players, the big teams, having all those, the margin of spaces to permit all of those physical dynamics to, let the ball be able to cross space and create good dynamics of gameplay. That does not happen in esports. In esports, the physical required space is very minimal. It's a fraction of what you need for a sports stadium. So that is something that helps to scale down the core of that building that we're trying to create. For a physical field, it's very big. For an actual arena, it's way smaller. Now, caveat, this might be slightly different for when we're talking about VR, because your digital movements are directly mapped to your physical movements. So you actually might need a bigger space, but I don't think that they're going to be as big as a physical field will require. But something that I'm putting my eye out and that I definitely want to do a video about to just explore it a bit more because it's interesting. Number 2, physical interactions versus virtual interactions. This is kind of, it has to do something with the first item, but it's a little bit different because the focus of our attention, what we care about, what the buildings are designed to permit the viewing of in sports is physical interactions. It's a really wide margin of a stationary field that it's very dynamic inside, and the focus inside that field might change at any given time. But we in esports are looking at virtual interactions. So this means a lot of information that can only be viewed through a screen. So the way of enhancing or being able to design a space to permit this very specific type of viewership of that event, in this case esports, is very particular, and I wouldn't say subtly, I would say it's solidly different than sports. Number 3, the field goes first in sports versus the screen goes first in esports. And this is kind of building up from 1 and 2. The focus of any esports space is the screen. It is not the arena. It is not the players. It is the screens. It's where it is our only medium to understand and have a view into what's happening in the game. So the screens are the key component of an esports arena. Number 4, you are going to have very bright spaces versus very dark spaces. You have bright spaces in the sports world. Even at night, you have all of these big headlights because you need to be able to capture, and people want to physically see where the ball is, what player is where. You have all these interactions that cannot be between players, between the game object, the ball, and players, that cannot be viewed in any other way that is not via our visual medium. They can only be captured via a visual medium, so light is really important. That doesn't really apply for video games because for video games, everything is mediated through the computer, so the computer actually is able to record all the important interactions. But you actually have to have a dark space for that screen. The most important element in the esports arena design is able to be comfortably focused on by the viewers. Number 5, the difference between dynamic players and stationary players. So in the sports world, we have the players that we care about. They're moving all around the field and we kind of need to track them. And that's why we need a big field. And then that big field kind of determines the core requirement, like space minimum scale of the whole thing. For us, our players are basically sitting down and behind a computer, and they're stationary. All the action is happening in the virtual world, which is mediated through the screens. Now, again, asterisk, this might be slightly different, maybe substantially different for when we're talking about VR specific arena designs. Number 6, we have single game focus versus multi-game focus. In the sports world, because of physical constraints, you have to have a particular field that is only designed for one game. So you have a football field, you have a soccer field, you have all these other types of fields. And then you have the stadium around it that is particularly designed for that viewing of that field. And that is really, really hard to modify in real life, because of physics. We don't necessarily have that focus for one, or that constraint, secondly, with esports. First, esports right now is very dynamic, and even though you have a lot of defined popular genres like fighting games, RTSs, first-person shooters, all these different types of strategy, or all these different types of games. The focus is not just one game. It's different types of games. And this has repercussions because you have different types of genres of games have different sizes of teams. So you have a 3-person team, you have a 5-person team, and also you might have other parameters that change and that could make the overall experience better to view that particular genre if some things changed. Just like we have we have differences between a football stadium versus a basketball arena versus a tennis court. It's all different. Number 7. We have a static scale versus a dynamic scale. And this is building up on all the other items that we have been mentioning. Once we build a sports stadium, we can't really change it. It's really hard, very costly. With the dynamic scale of the potential dynamic scale of an esports, we're able to fit in the spaces around the particular types of games that are going to be viewed. So that's a really key difference that I think has a lot of potential for creative opportunities. Number 8, location-based versus event-based. Esports offers flexibility on not having to have both teams in the same location just because we're in the digital world. So there's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of understanding, and it's just the way that all things are already in the esports world because we're already in the internet, that we could have different events or the same event split into 2 venues around the world. And you can have a number of people go to one event, a number of people go to the other event. So we have like a team on one event, a team on the other venue. But then it's natural to then have kind of like we're looking at the other team digitally. So it's way more flexible where now there's an opportunity where we don't have to have both teams in the same place to be able to have a practical functional event or tournament run. And this just brings way more opportunities for just hybrids between physical and digital experiences, especially with AR, VR, and all these other things with the big screens, the exterior LEDs, the sphere, for example. It's a really cool opportunity to really exploit where we're at and where we're close to be with all these technology. Number 9. Passive fan base versus an active fan base. Esports fans want to participate. Contrary to sports fans, they go there and they know that they're going to be sedentary. They know that they're not going to participate. They're just there to spectate the game, and that's it. For esports players, it's different because we want to play. We want to watch. We want to see what our favorite players, like what's happening in the game, what's the latest strategy that is dominating in the game at the moment. But we also want to play. And that's why you'll see it in a lot of, my past videos on this series, but also any esports or video game event. There's a lot of active participation from the fan base. They actually want to play the games. And this is important because this starts to affect not just the core main space of an arena building, which is the arena itself and the seating arrangement, but also the spaces around it. Now we have to have maybe a space with a lot of computers or consoles that are offering the same game that is being played in the tournament for fans to go and check it out, actually play. But it also starts talking about how you fit all of that program together, because you go to a DreamHack or another one of these big video game conventions, and they usually have all of these components, but they don't fit quite well because they're just using the space that it's giving in the convention center. But usually if you want to spectate, it's in one place, and then if you want to go and play, you have to walk 10 minutes away, and then it's a little bit weird. It's disjointed and disconnected. Number 10 is game and team versus game and tech. And this is another fundamental difference between the esports ethos and the sports ethos or the zeitgeist. People in the sports world love the game and they love players. People in esports, they tend to love the game and then love the technology of the game. And then somewhere along the lines, some players matter, yes, but for some reason it's slightly different. And I do think it's because we as a fan base can participate more, so we don't have to live necessarily our dreams through this avatar, real person that is on the screen that is a pro player. We are actually able to, I don't know, there's something a little bit more tangible that makes it feel that's more achievable, or at least a participation onto it. For whatever reason, the focus changes. And then this, in terms of esports arena design, has its subtle effects, because usually you have kind of like the after spaces of a game where maybe you have the players meet up with the fan base. And that kind of requires its own, geometry of space and circulation and whatnot. Here, we come out of an arena of an esports event, and it's kind of like we want to play, right? So it might connect more with the active fan base and all these things that I've mentioned before. That is it. Kind of quick. I don't know if I said enough, if I said too much. But these are the 10 main tension points that I have identified that really start diverging from what the sports stadium is and wants to be a specialized space for it. If you think I missed something, make sure you comment it down below. Let's talk about it, because this is a developing framework and I just want to develop it and share it. I want to end the video with just running through a couple of tidbits of information or ideas of why all this matter. Insight, that's the word. Insight of why all this matters. So if we can justify that we have different spectating spaces for sports stadiums and other events like symphonies, then we surely can justify that we should have different spaces, different buildings for sports and esports. As hopefully my 10 tension points or divergent points clarify that there are key differences that we can capitalize and that we can serve better through a specialized building. This whole esports thing requires more than a dark room and a couple of TVs with powerful computers hooked up to it. It is a fundamental shift of the spectating experience that needs to be understood at a fundamental level from the game design standpoint, but also from the architectural standpoint. And the last insight that I would like to share with you all is that to be able to start innovating and just separating ourselves from what we have done for other things, we kind of have to change our modality of thinking. And then this is something that is called, there are basically two modalities of thinking when it comes to design. You have thinking by analogy and you have first principle thinking. Thinking by analogy is when you say something is like, and you're able to quickly bridge gaps of knowledge because you are able to compare A to B. They kind of look like the same. So you're able to almost like download all of your understanding of this thing to this new thing. But it's really good to close the gap of knowledge. But it is really limiting for everything else, especially innovation or just breaking away from the wrong things that we're doing. That's where first principles thinking comes in. And that's kind of how I'm approaching this whole thing. I'm just going down to the bare minimum, where I'm even saying, what is an event? Why do what stadiums even exist for, right? It's like, how do we define this thing that we're designing for? I'm going down to it's just a large gathering of people looking at one event. That's kind of like the most basic fundamental definition that I can find. And from there is where I'm building up my understanding of sports stadiums and how it diverges from the esports stadium. I know this video took a long time to come out. It's kind of complicated because YouTube is kind of like my fourth or fifth project in my life. And when I'm teaching, YouTube really just falls to the wayside. But I am done teaching for the semester, so I should be active making more videos in the upcoming weeks, hopefully months, hopefully forever, and I never stop. If you want to help me, just, motivate me, make sure you like the video, make sure you share the video, make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed, make sure you see my other videos of the series if you kind of found this interesting, if you're looking for more information about a deep dive into esports arena designs. This is the 4th video in the installment, and I'm thinking about doing way more. For example, I'm thinking of doing videos on the virtual arenas. I'm thinking of doing videos on VR game arenas and how this whole thing kind of might change or diverge from what I'm actually saying right now. How AR technology could influence the arena design in general. And of course, I really want to get into proposing my own original schematic designs for all of these ideas. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.